Hello everyone, welcome back. In this episode of Bitcoin Trade, it's going to be just a straight chart analysis here. And not much on the news that I have seen. Um, it's a it's a new year, so happy New Year to everyone. It's kind of past New Year, but anyways, it's January, and um, I'm looking at a chart of Bitfin. And the reason I go Bitfin for the most part is because it's the leading U.S. dollar, Bitcoin exchange by volume, and so that's kind of where I'm gonna go because it's um, because of I guess of all the liquidity on that exchange. So I'm just gonna go there. Although I will go to different exchanges here and there on the chart just to show some comparison. But right now I'm just gonna go on this. So probably most people trading will be trading Bitfin. I'm just guessing because it has more volume, so the assumption is more people are trading on Bitfin. So, but like I said in my previous episode, um, have uh, as many trading accounts as you can possibly have, just in case one, whatever reason, halts any trading and any bitcoins going in and out. So you can still trade, and it won't stop you from trading. So okay, so let's go on this chart analysis here. So as you see here, that I drew two lines here. I drew one from this point to the top right here, and I drew another one from this highest point to the next highest point on this trend line, and you're coming up with two different lines, as you can see here. And so the first one is from here to here. It's going to be this bottom line right here, and you see that it has looks like it's broken up, and then it's following this line here and just kind of skirting it. The other one is just this line here that's kind of just, you can see that that's kind of been a very strong resistance all along here coming through, right? So this top one is that line, and you see the price went up and not quite past that, and what you're going to see is basically you may see some bouncing around in here. As far as the MACD, it looks like the momentum has been very on the upside, as you can tell. It's been nice straight upward diagonal. I don't know how long that's going to be sustainable. Um, who knows? It may be sustainable. I think it was definitely oversold. Now I think people are very comfortable going back in, and it's at least reached 250. Amazing how that works out. My previous video I did mention 250. The next step would be to reach 300, and that 300 represents this area right here. And so if it can do that, so it's already higher than the last high, which is here. It broke up higher than that, which is higher than this, and then this is higher than this, and so this is a very small, I guess, wave here that you're seeing. Now my concern is basically once it hits here, this resistance, it'll test it. I don't know if it has enough push to push through. If it does, that's great. You're probably going to be looking at 300 if it does push through, and if it does push through to 300, it may bounce back down, and so before it pushes up further, and that's typical because you can't just expect this just to go gangbusters going all the way up. So right now, as the price goes up higher, it's going to get harder and harder for me to make my gains in Bitcoin. But by now, during all this time, you should have probably made your gains, especially right around here. This is would have been a great time to make your gains in Bitcoin as the price has gone up. Question is now, do you want to keep your gains, or do you want to convert them and wait to see the price drops, and so you could buy them back again at a lower price, making more of a gain. It's up to you at this point. Around anything between 200 and 300, I think is still a really good opportunity to make your gains in Bitcoin. So if you can make your gains in Bitcoin between these two price ranges, 300 to 200, anywhere in here, I think that's ideal. It's easier to make your gains in Bitcoin. At 200 to 300, you can get a quarter of a Bitcoin about $60. But as it goes up higher, it's going to get harder and harder to make your gains in Bitcoin, which is kind of good, because by then you should have already absorbed a lot of these Bitcoins that were already sold off as gains, and as the price pushes higher, that should make you very happy, and you can probably at that point decide whether you want to convert some of your gains into a fiat currency, either to use, or you could spend your Bitcoins. By then they would have been free Bitcoins to you if you traded around these lower prices around here, and then you could use your Bitcoin, and depending on how you're set up as an individual or a company or whatever entity you are or choose to be, they can be expended, of course. So expense them out. And so depending on how your strategy is set up, I think it's a, like I said, 2 to 300, really good price range. I think that's also the same price range where I think where it's very difficult for miners, quote unquote miners, computer miners, to really justify just selling their Bitcoins out into the market. If at that point they would have to constantly sell out, and just to I guess break even, maybe, I'm not sure. For me, it's a different strategy. I'm going to be using these Bitcoins, so the more Bitcoins I can use, the more leverage and more flexibility I have in my Bitcoin trading, and also in use as well. So keep that in mind. So this is what it looks like here on the 12-hour. That's the price right now. You see it's reached up to almost 260, but it didn't go beyond that. Again, it seems like a lot of people are playing this as the resistance, and not really this as much. So let's pull back and let's see what we can get from this. So I was on a 12-hour. Let's go back to a day, and let's go back to 3 weeks, and then there you go. So as you can see that if you pull back far enough, you'll see that this top line and then whatever is down here is just showing this short-term range here. Of course, it broke through out of that. So if you pull back, you'll see that this line here is more closer to this triangle that we're all talking about. And so let's get rid of those lines and let's make some new lines. So this is where you can just make some lines here, and let's just go to the top here, to the peak, and let's just go to the peak of this. Or if you just, maybe if we can figure out where the last high was. There we go. So if you look at the last, if you just followed this in the main body of what this has been going through, you'll see that it stopped short of just that right there. And so that would make sense. On the long term, if you look at this is on a 3-day, and if you look at the MACD, you'll see that it's still red right here, and this movement upwards on the long term on the 3-day chart is showing the momentum of going down, waning off, and possibly a momentum of going up starting to form. So on a long term, on a 3-day, this is really looking good, and there's a chance that this could break through. Again, you have to wait on a 3-day. This is very, very long term. And if you look at the volume, I mean, if you look at the volume here during these peaks here, this is what it looked like. And if you look at this volume here, recent, I mean, you see the tremendous amount of volume just in the last, especially right around here, especially right here on this sell-off, and it didn't really even move. You could tell that there was a lot of selling going on, there were more sellers than buyers, but obviously there must have been a lot of buyers because it didn't just flash crash like this. So there must have been a lot of going back and forth here, and the bar, if you compare it to some of these other spikes, obviously don't show it that way. So there must have been a lot of, my point is there must have been a lot of limit orders here and a lot of market orders to prevent this bar from just being, just crashing down. Because look at this, look at the volume, isn't it tremendous? And then if I look at the MACD here, it's showing the momentum going down, and as you see, the momentum going down is waning off and starting to reverse, and hopefully we'll see a more positive upward momentum starting to form, which this could be an early indication of that. And then so if you look at the lines and you look at the average, let's look at the average now. And this is a very long-term trade, so you have to keep that in mind. But if you've been doing what I've been doing and you've been trying to acquire your gains in Bitcoin during these times right here, you probably have got a lot of Bitcoins, or you've gotten a lot of Bitcoins that either you purchased or you made a gain through your trades, and you're probably amazed that you have this much Bitcoins and you have no risk involved right now. You may have, however, some liquidity issues as a investor or as a trader. In other words, and I mentioned this, I might have mentioned this in my previous video, that there is a risk in maintaining a certain amount of Bitcoins if you don't liquidate them or if you don't sell them. The risk is that you run out of money to buy more, which is, it may not matter for some, but for me it kind of does, because I make my gains through trading, and if I don't have money to buy Bitcoins, guess what? I'm forced to sell my Bitcoins, which I really don't want to do because I think there's more upside. And so if I'm not able to buy, or if I'm forced to sell a lot of my gains, it kind of negates the reason why I'm trying to hold on to these Bitcoins. So hopefully, there's an issue where at some point, how can I say this? Just like there's so many people who sell their Bitcoins to the point where they have no more Bitcoins to sell, they have to buy, because all they have is US dollars or whatever fiat currency in their exchange account. You're have to be forced to buy in to start trading again. So if the way you make your gains is through trading, that's the conundrum. Is you either have to stop trading and kind of starve yourself for a little while from making gains, or you have to liquidate whatever you're holding, or release whatever you're holding, whether it be fiat currency or Bitcoin. So anyways, back to this chart here. And so the MACD is showing the momentum waning off and going down to going up from the low of this downward momentum. So you see that if it can go now to a positive momentum, an upward momentum, this will just be the start. You're probably going to see the resistance really be at this 25 period average, which is about Let me see what the price would be if that was the case. Well, right now it shows like 310, 325, 300. So around 300, just like I was saying when I looked at the 12 hour chart. And so 300 I think is going to be the resistance, the next resistance. You may see some, but before that time you may see some going back up and down ranging. Maybe see a little bit of a retracement from going up before it goes up to 300. And we'll see what happens after that. So that's going to be probably the next price where it's going to go is 300. It's, you know, a round number, it's mental, it's easy for people to remember 300, you know. But anyways, 300 is probably the next point which you got to look for. Kind of reminds me of that movie 300. Anyways, well, I don't know if that movie, you know, what was that movie? Was it called 300? You know, the movie where there's only 300 soldiers versus an army of, or a whole bunch of army. Gosh, what was it about? It was about it's set back in ancient times. Anyways, that movie called 300. I don't know why I thought of that, but that's what I thought of when I said 300 for some reason. And I kind of when I thought about the number 300, I also remembered it as being the images as being black and white, except for the red capes that they wore and their red little helmets and their armor that they're wearing, and of course the blood. The blood is all gushing out red, but everything else was black and white for some reason. I don't know why. But that's what I see, and that's what I remember when I said 300. But anyways, never mind. And so there's the overall chart analysis. If you pull back to a 3-day, see right here, 3-day on a Bitfin. And so you know, there's some optimism here that you know, the panic has how can I say this? Subdued? I wouldn't say subdued, but has gone away a little bit, has waned off. Of course, if all of you who were very savvy with your trades, you capitalized on all that panic and probably got some really, really cheap Bitcoins, especially if you bought around anywhere between 160 to anything under 200, you probably did very well. You're doing well right now at current price is 247. But just the fact that you probably got a lot of Bitcoins at a lower price, you know, you should pat yourself on the back for hanging in there and holding on to those Bitcoins. And if you've been trading and keeping your gains in Bitcoins, even better, because you're probably the reason the price has gone up in value, because you're absorbing all those Bitcoins out there, and it may be getting harder and harder to get Bitcoins, despite the fact that there's people still trying to you know, go out there and sell their Bitcoins. The problem is, you know, they have to sell a lot more for the same amount of money, and at that rate, you just can't you can't keep up. At some point, you know, especially if you're trading, you're making your gains in Bitcoin just to maintain the value of the Bitcoin holdings you have. You know, you have to work just as hard for your Bitcoins for the same amount of money. And so, you know, if you played it right and you're willing to hold out for a little bit, basically in a way starving yourself, you can just let the value of the Bitcoin rise. And I think that's very possible, but you have to plan in advance. You know, just like I said, when the winter comes, those who prepared for the winter are going to survive. For those who didn't, well, they're just going to die off. They're not going to survive for this year, and they probably wish that they planned it a little bit better, because I think this year will be, at least for some of the things that I'm doing, this year will be the year that I think you're going to see a lot of things happen. And I'm not going to really say what in particular, because these are my plans. I don't know what in general with Bitcoin is going to happen, but I know for me, a lot of things are starting to come together and starting to form the way I want it to, and it's becoming more real. This may be the year where it actually becomes real. Like, I actually made something real from virtual reality, and I'm able to actually physically show it. It's manifested itself physically, and I'll be very, very happy for that day to happen, because I worked so hard into making that happen. So, anyways, I guess this concludes my episode. I don't really have anything to show. I think it's just a, obviously it's going up, and the momentum is going, the downward pressure momentum is waning off, and you're seeing a reversal, and on a 3-day, it's going to take a while, but I think around March, is it March or May? I'm not sure what I said. But obviously, when spring rolls around, I think you're going to see some more positive movements on the upside. It's going to depend if it can break through that resistance. But I think by then, no matter what, it's just going to get harder and harder to have Bitcoin come into creation, and once the market absorbs all that Bitcoin that's going to be out there, either through the auctions, the seizures, or just miners putting their Bitcoins out, after the market just absorbs all that, and it makes sense, because the way it balances itself, the price goes down, that's the best time to absorb all that Bitcoin. It's cheaper to get it. You can absorb it easier, either through gains or purchase. And then when there's a shortage, you're probably going to see a demand, a drive in the price, because now people have no choice but to, there's going to be more buyers than there are sellers, and that's going to drive up the price. So, anyways, I think I talked long enough. Feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment, even a video response. Until next time, stay tuned.